Alrighty. We are kicking into it here. I think it's working. I think it's working might become something of a catchphrase for me. I feel like I start that way every time. But I think it's working. I'm gonna get t-shirts made up. Ryan, I think it's working. Reason Studios, I think it's working. What a terrible phrase. Would you believe it? I work in the marketing department and I may have just suggested a t-shirt that says, Reason, I think it's working. Oh boy. Let's probably dock my paycheck or something. I don't know. I deserve some kind of punishment for that. How's everybody doing? We are live. I think we're live. I'm going to keep my eye on the comments here and see. Oh, yep, Johannes Werner. It's working. Thank you, Johannes. You are my right-hand man now. You've been upgraded. So, yeah, guys, welcome. And I hope everyone's doing well out there. It's been another week. We had quite a week last week. If you didn't join us last week, things got weird, but like in a cool way. I did something that I have never done before, and something I haven't seen done, maybe for good reason. Although, having done it now, I think it went really well. I opened up a live Zoom call to the first 100 people that wanted to jump on it from around the world and hang out and talk with me, but kind of with all of us. And so that's what we did. And you guys all jumped on the call. A bunch of you did. And it was a complete flying by the seat of our pants success. And it was really fun talking to everybody. I mean, I talked to a bunch of you guys. We listened to your music. You guys make some really good music, I gotta say. In fact, I've been digging into the folder that people have uploaded their MP3s and Reason files to. I've been digging into that even more. And it's kind of neat to have that collection of stuff. I may, not that I'm going to try and entice you to tune into future streams based on this alone, but I may be going into that folder in other streams and doing things with that, with those songs you submitted, because I think I've got this little repository now of neat things that we can check out on future streams. So, but my point was, I've been listening to those and there's some really good stuff in there. Like there's a lot of people making really good stuff. Hello from Springfield, Missouri. Hey, Springfield, Missouri. How you doing? I was just in, I don't know where Springfield is, forgive me, in Missouri, but I was just in Branson, Missouri, of all places. In October, I made a video where I was traveling around talking to people about Reason 11 being available as a plugin now, and we had this guy in a suit. We were all excited. We went through Branson, Missouri, because there's a restaurant with a gigantic chicken that was just too good of a backdrop not to film in front of. So shout out to Missouri. Well, listen, guys, I have a guest today. So my guest will not be you guys, though we'll probably do that again in the future. But I have a guest today who you all know his music. Like if you have watched a Reason video, well, if you've watched this stream, you know his music because you hear it here. I'm going to cue it up again. It's this guy. That's who we're talking to today. Well, I mean, that guy is a personification of a piece of music, but the guy who made that music, that is who we're talking to today. And not only are we talking to him, but ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be introducing you to the man with, I gotta actually, I'm gonna cue this up with an effect here just for bigger impact. We're gonna be talking to the man with
the most Swedish sounding name you'll hear all week.
That's right. I'm gonna try and do this with as best a Swedish pronunciation as I can. We're gonna be talking to Lars Söderberg, which I'm not quite sure. We're gonna find out how I did with that. We're gonna bring him on here. The way that I would say it is Lars Söderberg. And Lars, are you hearing me okay?
I am.
How badly did I just butcher your name in both Swedish and American pronunciation?
I mean, if I remember correctly, didn't you live in Sweden for a while?
If you add up all my time, I've lived in Sweden. So like my longest stretch I've done, I think was 7 months. And I've done 2 months and 3 months. And, so you start adding them all up. And collectively, I've lived, a couple of years in Sweden. But
so you're Swamerican.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So do you go, is it Söderberg? Is that the correct way to kind of westernize it?
Lars.
Yes, Lars. You put like a sh on it.
Yeah. Lars.
See, I didn't even do it right in Swedish.
I think you did marvelously.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
You are over in Stockholm, correct?
Yes, in the epicenter of Swedish Corona.
Uh-huh. Hey, Lars, a quick word from the chat. They want you to turn up your mic, so we'll do that.
Is it up now?
Yeah, he's got the gain. So yeah, you guys, I don't know if I should be thanking you or feeling worried for you guys. You guys have been the sort of test case for the world of like, what happens if we maybe don't do as much of this quarantining and distancing thing?
Yes. I mean, I've heard and read the complaints from other countries, but I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm staying healthy.
That's good.
Trying to stay inside.
That counts for something. That's excellent.
Yeah,
well, you're
it's creepy.
You've got so what happens when I talk to people on these live streams like this, I end up kind of analyzing what's behind them always. So like right now I'm fixated. There's a globe behind you, which is very exciting. And there's a mystery object over your other ear. There's a blue, is it luggage or is it a sousaphone case?
I'm actually sitting in my oldest daughter's room. It's the only room available where there won't be any kids running because I said, don't come in here. So,
that's like
that's a lamp from IKEA.
Oh, IKEA. You got to plug IKEA.
That's a balloon.
Is it? Oh, it's a balloon.
Yeah.
My two guesses was luggage, and then I went right to like tuba, like carbon fiber tuba flight case, which I don't know why my brain goes there right as the next guess.
I would definitely order it in that color.
It wouldn't you? If you played the tuba, you know, people who play the tuba are the most wild, fun people. So it's the ones you don't suspect, people. Well, so I guess, you know, what we should do, first of all, just as we're letting some people, the stragglers are joining the chat and we're kind of getting set up here. We should let people know kind of who you are, because I bet a lot of people might even know you if they, you used to work with, then Propellerhead, now Reason Studios. Yeah. You would have maybe interacted with some of these people if they sent support requests and things like that. Is that true?
Yes, I used to work both for product support and sales support.
Gotcha.
And I think I started with my collaboration with Propellerhead was through Reason 6.
Uh-huh.
I made a demo for the one that you can launch.
Yes.
And then after that, I think I started working at product support.
But so people who may have been like really mean to you in support emails where they, you know, they need help. I understand when people get frustrated, but then a lot of times they say really mean things to you guys. So now is your chance, Lars. You get to reply on a live stream. No, you don't. But
I love you guys.
Oh, there you go. That's the spirit. So you're right. So the key thing is that you actually got you didn't get involved with Reason by working with Reason. You got involved with Reason Studios because you were a Reason user and a musician of many years. And so you did the demo song. Which demo song was it that you did?
It's called like Nanu.
Was it a Mork and Mindy themed song?
Yes, thanks.
Good.
You're the first person that I've actually had this bond with. I can't understand where the name comes
Is it actually related to Mork and Mindy?
Yeah, I grew up watching that. So
wow. We should dedicate the rest of the stream to a TV show that ended in like 1981. We'll just alienate as many people as we can.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did. I mean, I did a lot of music. I posted it on. Back then, it was like. No, it wasn't MySpace. It was SoundCloud. And then all of a sudden, I got an email from Christopher Wallman. Stoffe.
Oh, yeah.
Brilliant product guy at the old Propellerhead team. And he said like, "Oh, I like your stuff. Wanna do a demo?" And I was like, "Oh, of course." And then I leached on him. And I was like, "Yeah, so you got any more stuff that I can do?"
Right.
And, oh.
You know, there's this funny thing. So you guys who are in Sweden and were Reason users, to me as an outsider, I was a Reason user before I worked with them. But it seems totally natural that if you lived in Stockholm, like, of course you're a Reason user. Like, how are you not just camped out every morning as they come into the office trying to sort of join the team? But I know I've talked to Matthias about his experience too, which was similar, where he started doing some like demo things, and he has this moment where I can't remember which release it was for. Maybe it was Reason 5, maybe it was Reason 4, something like that. But he had the Reason development team sent a like early beta to his house on a DVD via courier. So like, because, you know, it was like, we're going to go far back enough that you couldn't just say, yeah, just download this, 4 gig file. You know, it was like, that was unthinkable. So they burned it on a DVD. They sent a courier to his house. It was this advanced release. And Matthias, it was like one of those early tangible experiences where he's like, I'm on the inside. I'm starting to get like I'm connected to this thing that I use and love. And now I've got this. It's like when James Taylor heard Sgt. Pepper's on a reel-to-reel tape that George Harrison played for him before it was released to the public, and he was sort of like, oh my God, like that moment of like, I'm hanging out with one of the Beatles, hearing an album that the world hasn't heard yet, and it's Sgt. Pepper's added to that, but anyway, well, that's so you.
I want to say that I had the same experience when I first stepped into the Propellerhead office back then, started, my career in the support team at first. I mean, I actually felt like I was among rock stars. I remember like when first time I saw Ernst, or Ernst, as we say, is like, I was, you're all legends.
Right. I don't know if I've told the story on the stream, but I'll tell it since it sort of relates. The first time I met Ernst was at the NAMM show in a big industry convention for people watching in California, where the music industry, tech people all get together. And I was a 20-something-year-old kid, and I went down to visit with my then girlfriend at the time, who knew the Propellerhead guys. And so I went down to the show, and they don't do this anymore. Sorry, NAMM organization. They gave me a badge to get into the show because I didn't qualify to get into the show on my own. And so they gave me this badge. They said, here you go. This is a misprint, so you can just wear this one. And they handed me a badge that said, Ernst Naturasberst, CEO, Propellerhead Software. And this would have been in the year around 2001 or 2 when Reason first launched. And so, Reason is it's this new thing at NAMM. Everyone's buzzing about it. Everyone's talking about it. And I'm walking around as this CEO that, and so people kept stopping and going like, oh, Ernst, so nice to meet you. I love what you guys are doing. And I was terrified that if I couldn't own up to it because I would get kicked out of the NAMM show. So I just had to like be super awkward and just kind of play, oh, okay, thank you. Okay, bye. And kind of just skirt out of conversations. So I did the worst ever networking job for Ernst during the first NAMM show that I ever attended. But then I ended up meeting him, and then I'm wearing the same badge as him, but spelled slightly differently. It was very weird, very weird. But anyway,
still using that badge.
Yeah, exactly. They've cracked down on that system. Now you got to show ID to get in. But back then, someone handed you a badge and you went in. So I'm going to keep an eye on the comments here. D. Thomas, there is not a folder, no submissions folder this week because we're actually, and we should probably get to it, we're actually going to be looking at some of Lars's tracks today. And I thought this would actually be kind of a nice chance to look at how someone who has been deep into Reason for a long time goes about making the sounds he does. Because what happens, like when Lars made, let me go back to it. When Lars made this song, for weeks, months even, I just hear about, I get DMs, I get, comments on videos and YouTube and stuff like that of people going, "Oh my God, how did you make that? What is that sound? How is that happening?" And so when I was thinking of people for the stream, I instantly thought, oh, well, let's bring Lars on. Let's take a look at let's get inside his head and look at the stuff that he does. So Lars, I think you've got a couple files there. One of those I think we might even get to is if we have time, we'll get to the Reason 11 song. But maybe should we start with that other tune you were playing me recently?
Start with any song. I'm just gonna share my screen here. Let me see.
Cool.
Am I live?
You are live. We are seeing you.
Okay. So this is a fairly small setup or a fairly small project. This is a work in progress. And as you can see, it has a lot of audio in it.
It sure does.
It doesn't have that much MIDI, or that much, MIDI instruments, which is kind of, I went out of my comfort zone for a couple of reasons. One is to be able to do like big sounds with multiple instruments and then just bounce them to then, screw around with those audio files.
So wait, I'm gonna dwell on that for a second. You mean you would first make a big sound, sort of like I don't know if you were doing it in a combinator, but we'll say that. Like you'd make a sort of signal chain that was a big sound.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would bounce it to audio to sort of commit yourself to that sound? Is that the idea?
Yes. And also to help my poor old MacBook Pro from 2012 to make it last, or at least not die on me while bouncing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, should I just play something?
Yeah, let's play a little bit of this tune and kind of just get a sense of what it is for people. What's the name of the tune? And also, so I think I know this, but I'm seeing up there, Black Magic is up at the top. Is that an artist moniker of yours?
Well, yes. I mean, throughout the years, I've started numerous types of projects, and just, I have to have a name. Because if you have Lars Söderberg as the name, then, well, people have a hard time knowing what this means too, but like... Right. Lars Söderberg.
But still, then people can't go...
Lars Söderberg.
That's
very true.
I guess you could do that with
Black Magic.
So, okay, it works.
Well, if people say BLK.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you for giving me the touche of insert effects.
People say it in Swedish. So you're named BLK MGK? Yes, that's my name.
Have people not caught on to the trend now of removing vowels? Like cashmere, and all that stuff?
I don't know. I started this in 2013. I made some songs.
You may have started the trend. What if you're the reason everybody does it now?
No.
No? Okay.
No. And you think you're so special, and then you realize that everyone else is doing it too, and it's like, oh, okay. I'm not special.
Story of my life, Lars.
Yes.
So let's take a listen to this then. So this is it's called
it's called Power Up.
Okay.
I collaborate, or we've merged, so now she's a part of Black Magic, a rapper from LA called J Star. She's amazing. And what we're gonna hear now is the intro, verse, some sort of drop, and then I'm just gonna, walk you through it.
All right, let's check it out.
Up, bad bitches everywhere, shaking derrieres. Girl, don't hurt nobody. Fuck them bitches if they hating. Girl, just get it. Don't do shit but get the bag and mind your business. You call it on the phone now, tell them that it's on now. DJ, turn it up, it's your motherfucking song now. You stay on your own tip, but you got your own style. They can't tell you nothing, cause you own now. Power up, 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 power up.
Now, I gotta say, I love that so much that I inadvertently, when that when that part happened, I started doing the Numa Numa dance. Like, I've never had that happen by accident, but I was moved. I fully now understand the Numa Numa kid, because it makes you, that hook is cool. Yeah, Drowsy Carnivore says, chop that vocal, baby. Yeah, that sounds nice, man.
Yeah.
Dave Smith Hayes, damn, that verse is tight. It is. It's tight in the slang sense of it, and also just in the delivery sense. She's crisp.
She is amazing. I actually, back then I lived up north in Sweden, like 1,000 miles north of Stockholm, way up north. And I was like, there's no one here to collaborate with. So what do? I started I actually Googled best unknown rapper LA. And then I was like, oh, yeah, Star. I'll send her a track. Hey, do you want to collaborate? And she's like, ooh, wow, cool. And then, bam.
Really?
And
it's that easy, folks. There's, I want to flag that for a second, because sometimes, the most teachable moments come through little throwaway lines like that. But there's a major thing that just happened there. This is that, that quote about you miss all the shots you don't take. I'm paraphrasing a bad version of an American Office reference to a Wayne Gretzky quote. But anyway, my point is, all you had was enough ambition to Google something and then reach out to someone, and then you've created from that this very healthy collaboration. And I think a lot of times people sit alone and feel alone, and that's natural and normal, and we all do. But sometimes there's this feedback loop of helplessness that can come from that, where it's oh, I'm 1,000 miles north in Sweden. How am I ever going to find someone? And then the answer is somewhat simple and very fruitful. And so I hope everybody listening if you've been feeling like you wish you could collaborate with people, you could be one email away from a very healthy collaboration.
I mean, nowadays, at least for me, since I discovered Dropbox and stuff like that, and being able to just send and receive files and not and now with, Zoom and everything like that, it's super easy.
Right.
So, I mean, if I would send a track to Ariana Grande, I guess she wouldn't reply and be like, oh, okay, cool, here's that verse. What do you think?
No, but you did... You sort of did the right thing. You set your sights high in your Google search terms. You could just microanalyze, right? You said best. Okay, I want someone good. Unknown rapper, in LA. So you kind of you pair that together, and you find someone. I mean, obviously, yeah, you can't, you can't send Rihanna a thing. I remember there was a story I heard of a guy who was he was on the dole, on unemployment in England for years. And he'd been trying to find a job. He would go into the unemployment office all the time. He'd say, look, I'm applying for jobs. And he'd show them these jobs, letters. He'd be getting letters back from Coca-Cola or whoever. And they would say, thank you for your interest, but we're not interested at this time, And he kept showing it to people and he was doing a search for for a job. But what they found out was he was writing to Coca-Cola, and he would say hi, I didn't graduate from high school, but I'd like to be CEO. And then they would write him back a letter. They go, thanks, but we're not interested, just to kind of cover their legal basis. And that became the evidence. Like, it doesn't say you're not qualified for CEO. And, it just said, thanks, not interested. And that became a rejection letter he could use to keep collecting unemployment. So anyway, don't do that with Rihanna unless you're trying to collect unemployment. Mm-hmm. That's the lesson. Well, but could you...
Yeah, so just contact people.
Yeah, it's simple but hard sometimes too. I mean, I think we all know that too. If you're putting yourself out there a little bit, it's like it's asking a girl to dance a little bit too, where it's like oh, I gotta like when you're in your junior high or something. It's like, now I gotta face rejection. So it can be, but people should try it because sometimes it works really well. Could we, just because it was super good, could we solo her verse and just hear that she's so tight? That's the right word.
Yeah, bad bitches everywhere, shaking derrieres. Girl, don't hurt nobody. Fuck them bitches if they hating. Girl, just get it. Don't do shit but get the bag and mind your business. Get Kylie on the phone now. Tell them that it's on now. DJ, turn it up. This your motherfucking song now. You stay on your own tip. Plus, you got your own style. They can't tell you nothing. Cause you own now. Power up.
So good. Is she doing, just out of curiosity, is that, I mean, I guess this is probably taboo for a rapper to do this. That's not her slowed down and then sped up and quantized. That's just her.
I think it was a tad slower when I started it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it's not 50 BPMs up or something. I think it's like 5.
I see, but that's more just the creative choice that after you started, you're like, you know what, let's bump this a touch.
Yeah,
it wasn't because I've wondered that sometimes when I hear kind of the really fast stuff. I'll hear a song and it's got like some rapping and it's like really fast. And I go, are they just nailing that, or are they slowing it down and then bumping it up to make it sound crisper than you could ever get it in real life?
I think there's a lot of possibilities to do, both.
Right.
But I'm hoping that people are just naturals.
Right.
Very talented.
Yeah, she is really good. Well, so I don't want to stand in your way of kind of walking me through this, but what should we check out here?
Well, I mean, there's not that much to really check out because the star of this song is J Star. But,
yeah.
I mean, I've chopped her up. You can just, you take a portion of the vocals and
power up.
Yeah.
Just like take the part that's sort of
now.
You take a part of it and then make it not click too much.
But that's one of those things. I mean, that it's a very simple technique, but drop that back in the whole mix again because that's kind of the. Back up a measure.
Play it longer? Okay, cool.
Power up.
So I mean, I love that. I love that hook in general. What I really love about it actually is the chord change when it drops down. That's kind of when my brain, so I have this thing, I made a tutorial video about hooks where I said that the hooks are at their best when they are kind of the meeting between unpredictable and predictable. And so this is a great demonstration of that because that stutter is unpredictable. It happens and you just go like, what's happening? I love you. This is crazy. But then when the power, and it goes down a tone or a third or whatever it's dropping, all of a sudden the unpredictable becomes predictable because we heard it before, and so it changes and our brain instantly acclimatizes to it. And it's just, I don't know, like this is such a good example of hooks being at their best when they surprise us and then we are kind of in on the thinking for the next time around. It's really cool.
You basically hear the same thing in the the verse drums contain some sort of, let me see what that is. I'm using the rytmique. That's the proper way to pronounce it.
Rytmique. Is that
some sort of 909 sample?
Right.
pitched, and it has distortion on it. So I'm using that one to also to be both drum and bass in the verse, and the chord change is the same over there.
Oh. So it's
I
changing chords. The kick tone is changing chords.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Well,
You know, Matt Hammond, our new friend from New Zealand, he said in the comments, the first time I heard the hook, I thought it was a build until the chord changed and it hit me. And I think that's actually a good point, is that it totally could have been. It could have been like, there could have been some like swell coming and it could have really, you know, gone to a drop or whatever. But instead, he's right. When the chord changes, that is kind of the moment where your brain goes like, oh, I get what we're doing. Oh my God, you know, which is neat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could have made it bigger after this, but
it's big. I mean, it's big. It's quite big, but it's big in a different way. There's like big, like I think Matt's point is like there's big and going somewhere, or there's like big and you're already there. You're in the big moment, you know, and that's kind of what happens in that chord change. So one thing I was going to ask you about that vocal cut actually is that as simple of a technique as it is, you kind of have to have a little bit of, I don't know, faith in yourself, that because it's kind of weird. Up, like that's kind of a weird, very like in your face thing. And what was the thinking behind when that happened and you thought like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to do this for 9 measures or whatever it goes on for.
Well, at first I sent her the track and she did the verse, and then the verse stopped or ended with power up. And I was like, power up, that's a cool phrase.
Right. So wait, so she...
So let me use that as the, you know, the catch line or the hook of the song.
That wasn't intended until you got her verse back.
Yeah. I mean, from the start, I think I had something else in the, you know, drop or whatever it's called. So I took a part of the verse because she had also done, you know, dubs, backing vocals for it. So I just chopped them up and did a fat thing out of them.
But so play here, zoom in for a second on the end of her verse. Is her sort of the natural power up that she delivered at the end of the verse? Is that still there?
I'm gonna see. It's that one.
Okay, wait, back up a little bit. Let's lead into that.
Power up, power up, power up. Power up, power up, power up.
Oh, I see. Okay, so she did that.
Power up.
And she did that little sort of 3 thing. Power up, power up, power up.
Yeah.
I see. And then you were like, oh, okay.
I stretched it here. So
Power up,
oh.
power up, power up, power up.
Gotcha. Okay, so you didn't, you literally took that as a sample. It wasn't even that you were like, hey, develop that into a hook for me or something. Or sort of give me another take where you do it slower or whatever. You just time stretch what you already had.
Yes.
Cool. That's great.
That's often the way I do it. And then I was like, yeah, we can redo that later. And then I often don't.
This is a recurring theme. I feel like on these streams, we're going to start developing certain like the common language and themes that we talk about with a lot of artists. And this is something that happens when I go out in the world, back when I used to do that. When I go out in the world and interview artists, you start noticing that we all have similarities in the way that we work. And that's one of them, is that sometimes ideas in the moment you go, it's good enough for now. And then you come back to it and it's great. It's perfect. But you sort of saved yourself. You know, sometimes you can ruin a great idea by trying to get it just a little bit better in the moment. So walking away from it and saying good enough is actually it's actually a strategy we should probably do, you know? So
I used to be very like hard on myself on those things, but nowadays I'm, you know, it's good enough. Good enough is good enough. I mean, if it's good enough and I think it sounds good, then it's why would I change it? It's just right.
So now I'm jumping around a little bit here. But I wanted to jump back for a second to the drums that you were talking about, the rhythmic drums. First of all, using that device, that's something I think, because it's relatively new in Reason, that's one that people may not have explored as much. So what led you to that instrument for your drums and those sounds maybe?
I think I just used it because it was like, oh, it's a new toy.
Right,
Let me
okay.
see how it sounds and what I can do with it. I could have used Kong, could have used Oomph or whatever.
Right.
Or some other thing, but I just launched it and I was like, going through the different presets, I found this thing called Pretty Ugly. Or Pretty Ugly.
And did it sound, so it's, I'm seeing, it looks like it's got a few things in the chain after it.
Yeah, it's just an EQ and the Slate VTM, the tape machine.
Gotcha.
And the saturation on.
I
use
see.
a lot.
You use that a lot, the soft tube saturation?
Yes.
That is a, I'm mentioning this, maybe if people don't have it and want to grab it. I think that's a free rack extension. I hope I didn't just say that incorrectly.
I know that it's a free VST though.
Okay. Boy, I hope it's a free rack extension. Otherwise,
I hope it's a free rack extension.
I've just oversold it. Hey, Stefan, who's helping me out,
Stefan,
let us know in the comments, Stefan, if that's a free rack extension, because I don't want to have just stuck my foot in my mouth. If it is, people should grab it. It's a really, I mean, well, if it's not, people should grab it too. But I don't want to be selling software on here. So but if it's free, absolutely, people should just. It's a super useful coloration tool, right?
Yes, for everything. Drums, vocals, bass, everything.
David Smith Hayes in the comments says it's a free rack extension. Oh, thank God. Okay, good. Yeah. So now I can do a completely full throated thing. Hey, everybody, go out and get that. It's a really cool coloration tool where you can just it's like you can see kind of where Lars has the knob. It's like it's not cranked up there. It's a fairly subtle application of it, but it just kind of introduces a little bit of that harmonic distortion into things, which can be really nice.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if it's on neutral, I'm guessing, I don't know the beneath the hood on this one, but if it's in neutral or whatever, it affects all of the sound. But you can also, if you have it on bass, you can keep the low part.
Gotcha.
Like not saturate that one, you can do it like that, and you can keep the high parts on whatever you want to keep the high part on. I would never do that, so
right.
Kill the high part.
There's a comment from Indrek Kusk. He says, I think he's saying, why did they release Rhythmic? I do not understand. I think the very technical reason, if you could call it a technical reason, really, Indrek, is that it was tied in with Reason Compact, the mobile app. There were certain instruments that were built for the mobile app that you were able to move your Reason Compact songs. You are able to move Reason Compact songs you do on the mobile into Reason, and when you do that, the same instruments need to be present in Reason so that the song is compatible. So there was a couple of instruments that kind of were born out of Reason Compact rather than first built for Reason. So Monotone is one of those, which is a phenomenal bass synth. But it started its life in Reason Compact, and once it was in a little bit of a different form for mobile, obviously. But once we created the ability to move Reason Compact into Reason Desktop, suddenly it was like, oh, there needs to be a rack device of this, and Rhythmic was one of those as well. So,
I mean, you could do this sound on basically all of the other
sure
sort of thing is in
and
Reason.
so it's just that you said it's like a 909 kick.
Yeah.
Does it solo for a second so we hear? No, okay, right.
And you have the basics, delay, reverb, or stuff like that, and
gotcha.
Distortion, pan, pitch, all that. So,
but then what you said was you can you go back to the sequencer for a second and play the part? Maybe just solo the drums, and you change the pitch of the kick drum with the song. Can you play a little of that? Oh, back it up. It glitched a little bit, so I think we missed it.
Oh.
Gotcha. And how are you doing that? How are you actually changing that pitch?
I automated the pitch.
Oh, just literally the actual pitch parameter.
Yeah.
And then you're tuning by ear, basically. Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah. So I had to go up and really, it's hard sometimes to hear the pitch of something like that. So I basically set, the high pass around here so I can hear it better, and then I drop it down again.
I see. A thing I know I've sometimes done, though, you got to be a little careful that it doesn't introduce its own harmonics, but the saturation that you have on that, sometimes when you turn up the saturation, you can kind of enhance the actual tonal center of a kick drum. And you just do that temporarily, right? You turn up the saturation, then you really hear, part of the reason you're tuning it right now is because we hear it because of the saturation. But yeah, so you kind of crank that up a little extra, tune your pitch, and then crank it back down and to where you want it for taste.
I mean, it's the same when I'm writing bass lines and I'm using some sort of sub. I think it's super hard to hear the pitch. So I just, write the line 2-3 octaves higher. And then because sometimes it's just like the only thing you hear is like, and it's like, oh, what?
Right. That's a really good tip, though. Like, Lars, see, these are the things. I'm going to call these things out when they fly by fast. People who struggle with writing 808 bass lines, sub bass lines, write them 3 octaves high when you're writing them, not in your mix, not when it's done, but when you're writing them, write them 3 octaves or 2 octaves or 1 whatever moves the note into sort of a part where your ear can discern the pitch, and then drop it back down so it actually does its sub thing. That's a really great tip.
Yeah, and I've done that mistake a lot of times. And then you play something on your phone and it's like, well, that's not correct.
Right.
No.
I used to play music with a bass player who the whole band was playing, everything sounded great, and then we recorded together a little bit, and when you actually soloed his bass, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's times where he's like a semitone or a whole step off, but you just don't notice it because it's just kind of like in a band setting, it's just like the low thing that's happening. But
that was cool, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the unflinching critical eye of recording that you suddenly can't hide from those things, So
he was like,
yeah, exactly. It was a little bit of a humbling experience for him to realize, oh, I'm totally playing the wrong notes. Yeah. So, well, okay. So what else? So we got drums, we got the hook, but then there's some other things going on in this too. Maybe we should kind of just check out and.
I mean, we have the reason why I'm actually showing this project is just to, show that you can do stuff that actually sounds kind of fat, but with not using too much stuff.
Yeah.
Having that said, like I said earlier, it's some of these things are bigger things that I bounced and then, dragged around and messed around with.
That's the commonly used term now for that is resampling, right?
Yeah.
So can you show us an example maybe of one of those that?
Like this one.
It's a cool sound.
Yeah, and then I think I made it from a bunch of kicks. And then using that one on top just to make it a little bit clear. You probably won't notice.
So wait,
much.
I'm seeing that one's called X kick. That one you just played. Stay on X kick for a second.
Yes.
You've labeled that track as a kick, but I don't think if you played that, anyone might identify that more like, I don't know, a percussion sound or a snare or something. It's very thin.
I I think it sounds like, but I'm just using the top here. So
you're high passing the crap out of it.
Yes, 961.8 up here.
And so what is it?
I just wanted to have the top. I could have taken like anything here. I could have taken, something non-kicky, but I just I think I wanted an extra kick because I thought I was gonna delete the beginning of these, but no, so I kept it. But it's a common thing to layer up. I usually do that with I have an X that in my world stands for extra.
Oh, okay.
So
That's kind
it's
of your
like
naming convention.
Extra kick, extra snare, whatever, to just make stuff sound a tad bigger or better.
So can you play just the X kick on its own for a second? Interesting. Okay, now can you play just what you've labeled cleverly the drop kick Murphys? I see. So that's got all that. I mean, it's a really cool sounding hit with that nice swell after attack, the really cool thing going on the envelope there. But it is, if you were thinking about it from a mix perspective, it is lacking just some of that very clicky attack part of it. And so you're supplementing that together. What does that sound like together?
Well, it sounds like this together.
That's cool.
I don't know if you're hearing a big difference.
Oh yeah, I think I am. I hope.
Oh shit! Sorry.
People in the comments can weigh in here. Visashi Electronic, I hope I'm saying that right, says the kick sounds quite big. It really does. Yeah, and the thing for people that are watching this and sort of thinking about in their own music and kind of getting tips from this process is that. You might, if you had made that drop kick Murphy's kick that you have there, that this is a thing where people could sometimes, you want it to have more attack and you look for the solution inside itself. So you start going, I've got to EQ it, or I've got to use a transient shaper to try and add a lot more attack to it. And the solution sometimes is no, just add another kick. Just take the thing you want it to have and add it on top of the thing you've already got, and you end up with the perfect attack and that perfect tonality to the kick. I
mean, I've seen a lot of producers take 2 or 3 kicks and just merge them together. You have a attack, you have the middle thing, and then you have the ending, and make them into one.
Right. I mean, this is sort of the real talent that goes into sort of a lot of the, certainly the early hip hop production that was going on, and it's still very true today, is that like that layering of sounds is kind of, there's programming the beat, but programming the beat is almost secondary to the art form of layering the sounds to make that perfect sounding kit. Because, and I'm going to be terribly broad strokes generalizing here, but there's not a huge difference in, for example, a boom bap style beat in terms of what's happening rhythmically. You've got the kicks where the kicks are and the snares hitting on the backbeat, and like that stuff's kind of in place and predetermined from a note programming position. But then the sound design is like where sky's the limit for what you want to add. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it can be definitely like I think something that people can kind of get into, like, like, for example, I look at my own music making. When I do these streams, I end up going and making music after them because I get inspired by talking to you guys. And so for me, I'm going to start playing with layering some kicks on top of each other and kind of designing some of these sounds. But a question for you as someone who does do this, how do you know when to stop? Like, why stop at 3 snares and not 11 snares?
I've been producing music for a long time, and at one point I had huge projects sounding like shit because I had so much stuff in them. So I'm guessing the term "kill your darlings" is a nice, summary of what to do. Right.
It's an international phrase. We all have it. Kill your darlings in terms of sometimes you can actually be, it's counterintuitive. You can be working against yourself when you're making that bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger sounding layered sound. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. If you have if you do a bass line and you want it to be fatter, you can put a sub beneath it. And then you can perhaps want it to have more top, and you're fixing that through EQ, and you're you know, putting in some more stuff to fill the top, and then you just go mental and do more and more and more and more and more, and in the end you still have a bass line. So did it sound good from the start, or why do you have to polish so much?
Right. That is the trick.
That said, it's like it's never wrong to like add an extra thing. That's the most common thing in production. Just build. It's like Lego.
Right. You know, Sven Engelhard says, "Kill your what?" in the comments. The word was darlings. Kill your darlings, Sven. It's you know, the idea of that phrase is that you know, these things are precious to us. We work on them. That we sometimes we think we're really clever when we come up with a good idea, or sometimes we grow attached to a sound we've made or whatever. These things that have a little sort of, they're darlings for us. And sometimes the right decision is to kill your darlings. You know, there's there's a thing in stand-up comedy that I remember watching a thing once. I think it was an HBO special, and it was Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock. It's comedians all talking about comedy. And one of them said they do this thing where they take their strongest closing bit in their set and they move it to the first opening thing that they first say when they walk out on stage, because it sort of forces them. That's a similar concept of killing that's your best thing. And when you move it up to the front, you've kind of killed it. I mean, in the sense that you've now got to make sure that everything that follows is as strong as the thing that used to be your strongest material. So that's the comedy world's version of kill your darlings. In music, killing your darlings can be eliminating something, just getting rid of that word, getting rid of that line or that sound or that layer. You know, there's a thing I know in songwriting where they say something similar. They say, when you've written lyrics, whatever line you're most proud of in your song, you should probably pull it out. You're probably like, you know, if you're like, I am so clever for wording that way, or I did that little, you know, whatever it is, like, you should probably kill it because it's too clever by half, I think is the phrase.
Too good.
Too good, yeah. So you kill your darlings. It's a tough love thing that actually can make your music better.
I mean, an example of that is that I actually had a lot of stuff going in the verse at first when I did this track.
Right.
And then I was like, well, it might just work with just drums and vocals in the verse, and it kind of does.
Gotcha. You know, I just noticed. I think it's a little bit delayed here, but Anonymous is in the chat here. Famed Reason producer Anonymous. He said that's so true. I think he's talking about this kill your darlings process, and it reminded me of something that he does, which I think is kind of cool. I think he started it out of necessity because he lost some Reason files and all he had was the waveforms. But he took a finished song that he had made, kind of a beat he had made, and he ended up kind of flipping it as its own sample and kind of then making something else with it, reversing it and kind of like building something else on it. And it turned into even a workflow process for him. And in its own way, that's its own kind of kill your darlings thing too, because you've got this thing that might be a finished beat that you're proud of and you worked on, and all of a sudden you're going to chop it up, flip it, turn it down, and build things on top of it till it might be unrecognizable. You've killed your darling, but you've built something else on top of it. So there's a lot of...
like a recent video about this exact thing?
Maybe we did. I don't remember. I mean, I think he and I talked about it. We did an artist video together where he and I talked about it. So maybe it's that, but
I'm pretty sure I've seen some video. Oh, it was cool anyway.
Right. There's a request in the chat for Anonymous to be on the stream at some point. Yeah, we should do that. We should hook up for sure. So, okay. Well, you know, now, so that I could keep you on here all day, but I know we promised people we would take a look at another Reason file. Maybe we should jump over and start poking around this other song.
I think I have the talk back in. Yeah. So I'll be back in 2.
Okay. Perfect. Always save your files, people. Okay. So while Lars is getting that set up here, I'll just kind of talk to everybody and I'll keep us caught up on the clock. Drowsy Carnivore, sorry, not caught up on the clock, caught up on the chat. Drowsy Carnivore says, whoa, trippy melting clock. Yeah, there's a funny thing in screen sharing when the clock happens, you see like a whole bunch of those. It's weird. I think Lars is back. Hey, Lars, by the way, a question came in from the chat I didn't ask you about because I didn't understand if it's really that amazing of a topic, but I'm seeing it again here. You seem to have a definite color coding strategy going on.
Oh, well, I kind of. It's not that I, the bass has to be this color, and the drums has to be this. But I like to, do stuff so I can actually get some sort of grasp. Oh, here's one that slipped.
Look at that. We helped him organize. But yeah, so I mean, this is a thing, we can, I sometimes, I do this when I'm mixing. If someone else gives me a track and I'm going to sort of be the mix engineer, that's one of the first things I do is I color code things so that I can kind of get into it. But on my own music, it's more chaos.
I kind of like this. I get happy with a lot of colors.
Right.
So it just keeps me, in a weird way, more interested.
Right. Well, so now we haven't even told people what song we have open here. So maybe we should play a little bit for people and they can, it's one they've heard.
Is there a delay somewhere?
I mean, you've got a delay on the patch. I'm not hearing a delay. There's a slapback on that.
Yeah, but
Oh, right. It's funny because this is different. So I edited this when I did the Reason video that you made this for. I edited it, so I was like, wait, that's not what comes in next. But I guess that is what came.
Like this, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I cut to.
Damn, this song feels slow now.
Oh, I might have. You know, that's another. I wonder if did I bump the tempo? I might have bumped the tempo. Let's compare it to the. Let's see.
Oh.
That's where I have it.
It's the same.
Oh, it's the same. Okay. So this is for people watching this. Lars made the music for the Reason 11 release video, and spoiler alert, you're going to be making one for an upcoming video that's going to be coming out soon for the AAX when we release finally. We've announced it, so I can say this much. When we release Reason for Pro Tools AAX support, there'll be another video, and you made the music for that too, and it's good.
Yes.
But this one, I remember when I heard it, I was like, "Whoa, that's a big sound you've made." Maybe we should jump into that. Actually, the part that kind of like hits your face. Where is that at? Oh, that's okay.
It's over here. It's the pink part. So this is.
So there's a lot.
And on.
Yeah, it goes on and on. There's a lot going on there, but zoom in for a second, man. By the way, your scroll wheel on your mouse, you must go through about 8 of those a month, scrolling in and out. Yeah, so scroll in or zoom in for a second to that section there. It looks like sort of Austin, Texas hill country with the automation that you got going on there.
Well, we were talking about building stuff with multiple things earlier.
Yeah.
To make it sound, bigger. So there's stuff in here.
Oh,
monotone,
well said.
And a lot of Europas, or Europa, as we say in Sweden.
We're gonna have to make the Lars Söderberg pronunciation guide to Reason. Europa, Rhythmic.
Yeah, Rhythmic. Legend. I actually use Subtractor still. I like that one a lot. And this Sub Bass 2 is one of my favorites.
So all of that, when you say, so when you're mentioning all these instruments, monotone, Europa, subtractor, these are all layers that make up the, I'm going to, forgive me for scatting this, but that makes up the ba-da-da, 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 ba-da-da sound?
Yes.
Can we,
So
yeah, let's look at
this
that.
is how it would sound if I would not automate the pitch. With one of the sounds. It's the Legend from Synapse. Amazing synthesizer. I love that one. And then when I use the pitch automation, I think I have it on, I used to have it on 4, yeah. You can see it over here on this one. It depends on what kind of
What is that, the pitch bend range?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you have
For the sake of our screen, can you zoom way in on that automation clip vertically as well so we can really see the contour? Because it looks like, okay, so, it's not, it just goes up, hangs out of the top, and then goes back down. Play it a little bit. Oh, solo it, sorry.
oh, sorry.
That's okay. Interesting. Okay. So now I'm curious if I could ask just for the creative decisions that went into kind of arriving at this. Did you find that sound on Legend first, then come up with the line and the pitch automation, and then add the other instruments as sonic layers to it, or what was the order?
I think I started with Europa.
And what does that part of the sound like?
It's the bass phrase, whatever you would say.
You know what, Lars? Here's a funny thing. I'm getting a delivery right now, so I'm going to go let the delivery guy in, and you're going to explain to people the rest of the sound. I'll be right back.
No problem. Hello. I'm taking over this stream. So anyway, we have a bunch of stuff in here. I have the sub, as I mentioned earlier, or the subfilter, to be the bottom end.
Okay, I'm back. I'm back.
I thought I was going to do this for an hour.
No, I just had to hit a button just to let the guy in. Okay. Well, I don't know what you just said. You may have, so I may be now...
We're talking about what kind of stuff I had in there. I mean, if you look, here's a typical example of using the sub and don't really knowing what it sounds like. And you have some saturation.
I hope people are listening on headphones. Also, I got to say, I don't think Zoom knows what to do with sub because it's
But if you want to hear like how it sounds, you can crank this sucker.
There you go. That's exactly what we were talking about. You crank up the saturation so that you can hear kind of where the tone is really at.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Because you don't really need that one. You just wanted to fill the bottom floor. And then I kept building.
Stefan has commented, we're all very curious what you have received, Ryan. You know what I think it is? If I could actually, I'm gonna geek with everybody here just for a second, Lars. Forgive me. So I'm building an old clone of a first revision Blue Stripe 1176 piece of hardware because that's what I'm doing with my quarantine time. And I ordered a VU meter. That's one of the original Weston VU meters that they were putting, in the 60s, putting in these 1176s. The first one I ordered, wrong size, wah. So I kind of blew it. So now I've ordered another one that I believe will be the right size. And I think that's what just arrived via UPS. What's that?
Build something else with that one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to do. Now I've just got another VU meter for another project. So there you go. Matt Hammond says unboxing time. No, we'll save that for maybe a future stream. But anyway, okay. So could we look at just the sonic layers, maybe soloing them one at a time? What is the Europa element of that sound? What is the Legend? I guess we heard, but
we have the sub, and we have the Legend. and we have the
And which one? That's Europa?
yeah, and then we have the monotone.
Is that what is that a preset from Europa, or what is that?
I don't remember, but let's find out. Yeah, that's the bass phrase. But then we have the monotone.
What's it? Oh, Boss Frost. Okay.
I don't remember if I changed any of these, but I usually go for a lot of noise and kind of a lot of drive. Then you can like.
Stefan says Ryan ordered a Mega Nerd and it just arrived. Oh, you don't even know. Oh, if you guys saw my my eBay purchase history in the last 6 weeks, so much nerdery. So okay, but that's one thing I'm noticing there. If we could jump back to the rack for a second on that. It's probably true of all of the instruments, but it was true of the monotone. You've got that pump rack extension going there.
Oh yes, I mean I used to route sidechain the normal way, or what I used to do before having pump was that I launched. I used to launch one of these things. Where is that one? No, I'm on the wrong. I used to do. And you hold shift or control, wherever it is, when you. Oh, I didn't do that now. But you can, make this.
Oh, sort of a disconnected device.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Then I just took a kick that I liked, put it in here, and then started doing.
Kind of the classic method of side chaining.
Yeah. And then putting it into, this part.
Right. You put a compressor.
Yeah. And then putting.
But so now, okay, so you're using pump obviously as a shortcut, but also it's the sonic equivalent, but even sometimes with some more control, right? In terms of, because in the old method of doing side chaining using a kick sample, you'd have to tune the kick sample, add more sustain to it or tighten it up if you wanted a quicker attack. And this way is a little more direct. You just literally are controlling that pumping envelope directly on pump, right?
Yes. I mean, you can do that too in this department, the length.
Yes,
and
right.
The pitch, if you want it to be like, a super long one with super heavy attack. I mean, you won't hear it, but you will hear it in the sidechain effect. But this works in the same way.
Gotcha.
Same way. But here's like the floor of it. So how much I wanted to
Oh,
duck.
I see. Yeah, how much you want, and you have it ducking quite a bit, right? All the way
Yeah,
up.
no, I have it, all the way down.
And so is that actually what's creating the rhythm of it? Like if I were to sing it, I would go da 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 da, but it's not actually doing that. It's more like da 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 da. Like there's a little.
I mean, I think there's space in here, so I think I just put the pump in there to make it be. Let me see here. Oh, wait a minute. Where am I? Why am I?
Just so you.
It's me being a rookie.
There you go. No, it's okay.
If I just do.
Yeah.
So it kills sort of the.
It sort of kills that first note, but what's interesting to me about it is that the note it's like it's there, but it's there by implication. It's not like when you take it away, your brain puts it back in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like you feel like it's there, but it's actually not there. But by it being gone, it kind of makes you do that. Like you kind of hit that beat in a hard way. It's tough for me to explain that, but I can give a completely unrelated drawing example. Somebody once taught me that when you're drawing like fine art kind of things, a lot of times there's a trick they do where they don't actually connect a line. They'll actually like deliberately stop their pencil or their charcoal or whatever they're using to draw. They'll stop the line before it gets to the destination because your eye will complete it. And if you actually went all the way, it somehow looks worse. It looks more clinical and more fake even. And by letting your eye kind of be sort of a sensory partner, like you're kind of, the artist is inviting the viewer into the process with them. So your eye completes that line, and then it's more pleasing to the eye. And so this is like a sonic example of this. It's more pleasing to the ear to let the brain put that note in and take it out via sidechaining. Anyway, that's my philosophical rant for the day. Bing, we got one.
Boom. So we have, we have this part then. And then I think I added extra stuff. Yeah, it's even called extra.
Oh, is that? Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I see. It's the same parts with extra layers.
Yeah, it's just, spicing it up a bit. I think just to make it, a tad more interesting when you're, listening to it.
Right.
Dancing to it.
Very cool. And so that's kind of, obviously that's, this was made to a sort of a timing spec for a video that I was working on. And I was like, we need a big moment. And boy, you sure delivered it. But you also have this really good knack at, and in a way that certainly one of the reasons I like working with you on these video projects is I don't have to micromanage kind of the build up getting to that moment. It's like you give me stuff that precedes that and kind of is building, and it's a nice kind of build. I wonder if we could look at maybe just a couple of the sections that lead up to that big drop or whatever you would call that thing.
Yes. We have in this one, there's the Arpen, the antidote.
And what
Also,
section is this?
I think it's the...
So there's two things in that section that my ear is drawn to. I don't know which one is doing which, but there's the kind of bubbly thing that's up high, and then there's that kind of, it's like the pre-drop thing. There's kind of those like little gritty, I don't know what it, we'll dig into it and find it. But what is doing that up high thing? Is that antidote? Yeah.
So it's basically chords.
Is that going through an arpeggiator?
Yes. I like this a lot. It's an old thing, and it's great.
And so you're going through the old school, the arpeggiate, the Arpeggiator, or however we might pronounce it. What's the Swedish pronunciation? Arpeggi.
Arpeggiator.
Arpeggiator. There you go. This should be a thing, people are like, the super Reason geeks adopt Swedish pronunciation of all the devices in Reason.
Yeah, it's the musical equivalent of IKEA.
Yes, right.
Swedish words.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when people don't realize just how Swedish some of those tables sound when you're actually in Sweden. But actually, is it? Oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask what it was about the Arpeggiator that kind of draws you to that over, for example, Dual Arpeggiator, which is the newer player version of an arpeggiator. Comfort?
I kind of think that the Arpeggiator is very simple to get, bread and butter stuff done. The easy things.
Gotcha.
And then when I want to experiment, I use the new stuff.
I see. Oh, that's kind of an interesting delineation for it. Sure. So, and that's coming from Antidote. It's a nice sound in Antidote.
Yeah, I think it doesn't have a lot of sound if I would play it without the arpeggiator.
Yeah. And then you put on there that. So it must be is it a monophonic synth? That's why we're not hearing a lot of.
and then it's like this.
Nice. Now, Lars, are you a guitarist by the earlier part of your musical life? Did you start on guitar?
I started on bass.
On bass, okay. That in fact might even be more true what I'm about to say. I was gonna say that type of line is a classic thing that I, as a guitarist, find I'm sonically driven towards, like what you're doing. You're sort of creating a pedal tone, and then you're using. I'm even actually using my fingers now like they're on a fretboard when I'm talking about this. But you're sort of changing the notes of the top arpeggio while keeping the same notes in the bottom. It's a sort of guitarist mindset. It's what tapping is based on largely, is having certain repeated things and then changing one part of that arpeggio. So anyway,
absolutely, it's I mean, the cool thing with like an arpeggiator is that if you have written something like on a piano or something, just put it in arpeggiator, put some weird synth on it, and you're like halfway there.
Right. Yeah, that's true. It is a nice way to kind of spice up a sound or get an idea happening quickly. It's kind of a music generator of sorts for you. But so you've got that going on. Then you've got this other thing underneath that my ear was drawn to as well. What's that little like kind of gurgly, grittier sound?
Yeah. What's that? Are we talking about this?
Yeah,
one?
that thing.
That's the complex.
Complex one. Ah.
Going through some sort of player.
Oh, is that a quad note generator? Okay. So is quad note generator generating the notes that we're hearing?
Yes.
So just hit the run button on that for a second.
What is this me? What am I doing? Oh, I have.
Oh, wait, I'm getting it.
Yeah, I've done one of those things.
One of those things.
Yeah, the parallel channel.
Aha, okay, I see. But just looking at the quad note generator itself, it looks like what you've done is you've frozen the first half of the phrase, so it's the same every time, and then the back half of the phrase is going to be generated randomly every time. If you hit the run button just on the device itself so that we don't hear the rest of the track. Yeah. See, now there again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here for a second, but there again is that same concept of a hook being unpredictable and predictable. I mean, it's literally on screen there where you've created the predictable section, then the unpredictable section, and you're going back and forth between the two so that people go like, oh, I get it. That's the part that goes dum ba da dum 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 da da dum dum, and then something new happens, and then dum ba da dum 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 da da dum dum, and then something new happens. So that's kind of a, live by example there, the concept of hooks being both predictable and unpredictable. That's cool. It sounds good too.
Yeah, and this player is sort of a happy accident thing.
That's kind of what the whole thing is, a happy accident machine, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like, complex one too, of course. It's like, oh, what is this?
Right. There are people that understand Matthias over in Stockholm being one of those. I mean, he largely played a role in the design of Complex One, but I'm always in awe of people that look at that panel and it just makes total sense to them right away. And to me, it's a slightly exciting but slightly scary, like, what does all this do? And then you start playing with it. And so for me, it's the same thing. It makes happy accidents because I wish I were better at it.
I totally agree. I mean, I had a sit down with Matthias once when he showed me his Eurorack stuff or whatever it's called, and I was like, "Wow, that's 1 hour of headache." But the sounds were awesome, but I didn't understand much.
People should, you know what? In fact, Stefan, who's manning the comments in the chat for me here, should post if Matthias, I don't think he would mind. He's got a YouTube channel where he's got some songs that he's put up that are his modular kind of generative. It's this exact combination in hardware form. He's got this modular system, and some of his modules are generative modules, and so he puts up these like 16-minute, really beautiful pieces. And Stefan maybe should, I don't know, tweet it or post it in the chat if he can do that or something like that, because I think it's kind of neat to hear, this is the thinking that led to both Quad Note Generator and Complex One from the mind of Matthias. Here's the music he's making in the hardware realm based on the same principles. It's kind of neat to see it play out both in the Reason Rack and in the real world. But so that's cool. So that
He's a genius.
What's that?
He's a genius. He's awesome.
We're going to turn this into the Matthias Appreciation Hour. But so that, but was that seems like that's almost even one of those things that could be kind of the song starter idea. It feels like we've stumbled upon what might have been the seed for this whole song, because it kind of sets a mood and a tonality from which a lot of the other stuff probably built. Is that true? Is this one of the first things that went into it?
I kind of think I wrote this part first, just, words, and just, after a while it's like, no, it's boring, let's do something else. Discuss. Oh, wow, it sounds good. What happens if I do this with the player? And it's like, wow, this sounds really cool.
Interesting.
And so I fairly seldom have a real idea when I start doing stuff.
Right.
I do it, and then after a while it's like, wow, I'm finished. Cool.
That's such a great example. Like the entire arc of the creative process is, I have no idea what I'm doing. Oh wait, I'm done. And I forgot to have dinner. I just worked right through it.
I forgot to pee for 12
Yes,
hours.
yes, right, that too. So, but you did say something to me when we've talked outside of the stream. You mentioned that you tend to write from chords. That kind of usually is where your inspiration launches from.
Yeah. I either do a chord progression, just launch up Radical Piano, do some chords, or start with a drum beat and add some bass, or sometimes I start with a sample from somewhere, and then when the song is finished, the sample isn't really there anymore.
Oh,
it's gone.
So you'll actually remove the sample?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, some songs, of course, have the sample still in it, but a lot of times it's more like you have something there to just give the extra juice to your creativity.
That's interesting. See, I wish, part of me is wishing that we were starting to keep a running list of like the creative tips that come out of these live streams, because that's another one. Take a sample, build a beat from it, remove it, and now what you're left with is kind of the creativity that came from the sample without it being the sample itself, which if it's a sample that would cost you a fortune to license, that's even all the better to get rid of it. But
also, I mean, you can also destroy a sample in there, like just you can't even tell this the sample anymore.
Right.
So stretched and pitched and distorted and everything like that. So there's no rules.
Yeah.
So if it's an ABBA song, you have to delete it.
Right. Hey, there's a comment from Eric Zwag. He says, maybe a good challenge, make a song with only complex ones. That is a good idea. And maybe we should, maybe Stefan and I will talk about it. Maybe we'll make that something where we, through this new magic I've discovered of Dropbox file requests, I can have people drop things to me and we can take a look at them on the stream. So maybe we could do that. I'm thinking out loud here in real time, so forgive me if we don't do this. But Stefan, mental note for later. Maybe we have people make songs with only complex ones, bass lines, melodies, drums. You can do drums with complex one. There's a lot of things you can do with it. And let's see how many How many people can make interesting songs with that? Write down all these tips, Ryan, says Christian Nordberg. I agree. I know. I'm 5 weeks into these streams, and all this wisdom is just kind of like flowing out into the ether. So for sure, I hope everybody's... What's that?
Intern on Reason Studios has to go through all these streams. Oh, that's a tip.
Totally. You know, I got to say, I saw somebody sent me a screenshot that the Steinberg guys are doing some live streams too. And I assume it's not automated because there's no way this could be automated. They'll put into their comments timestamps for everything that they cover. And it's like, when I looked at that, my heart went out to like probably the intern that just goes through that live stream and goes, okay, 17 minutes and 3 seconds. They talk about the pump sidechaining. Okay, 21 minutes and 42 seconds. They make a joke about, Ryan's hat or whatever it is. The whole thing is in there. It's very, like, kudos to them. They got it all time-stamped. We will not be doing that because that would probably fall on me. So you guys can deal. But, so Lars, we're kind of hitting the 1.5 hour mark, which out of mercy to you and maybe the other people and maybe myself, is kind of where I usually go. Like, I think we're good. I think we got a stream. I think we can all go off now and make some music. We're sufficiently, inspired from looking through these things. Hopefully other people are as well. So, I want to thank you for joining me and showing us around some of these things. You can go ahead and actually probably stop your screen share, and then we can see your lovely face.
Where do I do that? Let me see here. Oh,
there we go. Hey, yeah. So I wanna thank you for coming on here. Hopefully everybody's enjoyed having you on here and kind of looking at some of these things. These are, certainly in that last tune, these are songs some people have heard a lot every time they start a new stream. Oh, Matt Hammond in the comments, he's applying for the job as the note taker. You're hired, Matt. The pay and benefits I offer is terrible, but you're hired. But yeah,
get a big VU meter from Ryan.
Yeah, that's right. I will send you a official 19. Where's the way to go this way? 1932. That is the model number of this Weston VU meter with a near mint bezel that just hit the ground. Oh man. Well, yeah, no, I think it's fun. People have heard these songs and kind of need to dig into them a little bit. But I think bigger than that is to kind of get into understanding your creative process and understanding, every time I talk to people, everybody has things that excite me, which is everybody does things slightly differently. And we have a lot we can learn from that. And then everybody does things slightly the same. And I think like there's almost more we can learn from what we all do similarly sometimes, because I think a lot of us are winging it in music production. We didn't all learn. It's not like the Suzuki violin method where we all learned the same technique. And so sometimes when when you see people doing something that you do, it's like, oh, I'm not weird. I do it the same way,
Yeah, that's a relief sometimes. And sometimes it's more like, oh, I'm also doing that. Yeah, so there's probably people out there that might do that same, like high pass, add a layer of a kick and high pass it so you just get the click. And for them, today might have been something of a validation that like their technique is a totally okay way to do it. They're not cheating, Oh, definitely.
Well, guys, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the stream this week. We'll be back next week. In fact, next week's kind of a big milestone week in the Reason community and the music community at large, because next, I hope I'm doing my date math correctly, next Tuesday when I'm on a stream again will be May 5th, and it will be the day that Pro Tools AAX plugin support is released for Reason. So the Reason Rack plugin will now be running in Pro Tools, and I don't know, if you're a Reason Pro Tools user, that is probably highly exciting news for you. And if your friend is a Pro Tools user who just was stubbornly never going to switch, then that's also exciting too, because then suddenly there's some collaborative opportunities opening up for people. Well, Lars, I want to thank you for joining us. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody here, and I guess I'll be seeing you next week. And I don't know what we're going to do quite yet next week, but I know it's going to be fun, and I'm thinking it might involve you guys again. I think it was fun to do some of the stuff where you're submitting tracks and we're playing with them. It might just be me hanging out with you. It might be a special guest. We'll see what the week brings. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in and for sticking around for as long as you did, or rewatching if you've come back to it. And I want to just encourage everybody to, now go make some music, because hopefully we've gathered some knowledge. Let's go out there and actually do something with it. And I will see you next week. I'm going to play out with our little theme song here. Now you know the brains behind it. Lars Söderberg, a.k.a. a few different artist names, but Black Magic, the other tune that we listened to. And here it is. The song we all know, and now we know how it was built. Thanks a bunch, Lars. See you next week.